Hello, I'm Keith and welcome back to another home media minefield, helping you with information to navigate the complexities of home cinema and home media entertainment. And in today's episode, I'm going to be looking at the Blu-ray release of Highlander, the 1986 fantasy adventure starring Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery, and we're going to get into this right now. So, the Highlander franchise has had various iterations of home media over the years. Not originally a huge theatrical success, the film really did find its following on home video, and over the years it has been released a number of times. What I'm looking at specifically today is the 30th Anniversary Blu Ray edition that was released in 2016. Now, the first thing to note is, and one of the things that often gets confusing, is the theatrical version versus the director's cut. Now, when the film was originally released in the US, for some reason, the 116-minute film was edited down to a 110-minute version and had certain scenes cut out that made the story a little bit confusing and made things happen out of context. So when it was released on home media, it was released as a director's cut, which was essentially the 116-minute version that we know as the normal theatrical cut everywhere else. So I just want to clarify that straight away. The version I'm talking about today is the original theatrical 116-minute version of the film. Now, part of the reason I've chosen Highlander for today's review is to actually tie in with a live stream discussion panel that I'm going to be involved in tomorrow. I will put a link in the show notes below of where to find it. The Wayback Machine stream. So we're going to be looking at the Highlander franchise and in particular focusing on this first 1986 movie. Now, as far as the Blu-ray release goes, currently there isn't a 4K UHD version of this available. I'm wondering whether it might be available next year for the 35th anniversary, but all the investigation I've done hasn't yet found a 4K version. So if anybody knows any differently, please comment down below, that would be fantastic. This version though has been remastered from a 4K transfer for the Blu-ray release. So we're going to dig into the usual areas right now. First up, the picture quality. This film was shot in 35mm and even got a 70mm release in some theatres. You can see some grain, obviously, from the fact that it was shot on 35 back in the day, but the picture quality is fine here and they've done a good job with this remastering. It's certainly an improvement on some of the DVD releases that had come out prior. And with the audio, you get the 2.0 Dolby Stereo mix, the original mix, and you also get a remastered 5.1 soundtrack that was done for the DVD release. Again, nothing wrong with the sound here, perfectly good on the system that I heard, with some good range in there. Now on to the special features, and this really is where Highlander has been somewhat of a minefield over the years, simply because there have been many different versions of it available, and therefore many of them have had different special features over the years. The version I got on DVD for the 20th anniversary release was what they called the Immortal Edition, and they did a rather nice job with this because it came with this embossed matte finish steelbook, which was really quite nice and included what at the time were considered new exclusive extras. Now, I'm pleased to say that on the 30th anniversary Blu-ray release, all of these special features and more have been carried forward to this version, although in terms of packaging it's just standard, somewhat uninspiring packaging on this. I'm not aware, I know the early releases did have a slip cover as well, which this one doesn't, but I'm not aware of any steelbooks or special editions of that. Again, if anybody knows of anything, please comment down below and let us know, that would be great. So to start with, let's talk about what has been ported over from the previous releases. First up, you get an audio commentary from the director. Now, this is quite an informative audio commentary. He talks through everything scene for scene and goes into quite a lot of specific detail, ranging from everything from working with the director of photography and the art directors to create the look, through to working with and casting the various actors, right the way through to visual effects and problems on set, etc. So that is included here. That is actually from the 20th anniversary release, so there hasn't been a new one for this. What is sadly missing, however, is on the Anchor Bay DVD release, it did also include a second commentary track which involved not just Russell, but it involved Panzer and Davis, the two producers, and that one was quite informative simply because it was much more of a conversational piece by having the three of them on the track. Now, sadly, I don't know why, but that has not been included here. Again, if you want to be a completist here, you really need to get that version as well, which sucks. Next up, they have a 4-part making of documentary, which is a German produced documentary that again was released on the 20th anniversary edition in 2006. Now, this documentary is broken down into 4 parts, and my understanding is when the Immortal Edition, which is also available on Blu-ray by the way, came out, it had 3 of these parts for some strange reason, but here on the Blu-ray they've included a 4th part to that, which makes this documentary nearly 2 hours in runtime. So this is very good. What it really is though are interviews, so it's mainly talking heads. There are some scenes from the film interspersed with this and a few behind the scenes production stills, but sadly there is no behind the scenes video footage included on this. However, the interviews are very comprehensive. Now, the first part's called A Legend is Born and is all about the writing process. It involves Gregory Wyden, who sold the original story idea when he was still a film student, and Peter Bellwood, who was one of the screenwriters on it, and how they got involved with the project and how they developed it. The visual style involves Jerry Fisher, the director of photography, and Alan Cameron, the production designer, on how they came about creating this world. Obviously everything was done in camera at the time, so they talked about how they achieved not only some of the spectacular photography included in this, but how they got around building sets on location within the budget restraints of the film. So again, goes into a lot of information here. Strong Woman features an interview with Roxanne Hart, who played Brenda Wyatt in this. She talks about what fun it was to work in the UK and how she really enjoyed playing the part of her character and her character's knowledge of history, etc., and how she built a rapport with Christopher Lambert. So that is quite a nice addition to this also. The next part, which is new to this Blu-ray, is a producer's point of view, where producer William Panzer talks about the project from concept to completion, talks about the selection of director, the writing process that went through this, and very much how once it was released it found its audience on home media. So a lot of detail here. As I said, it's weird that this wasn't included on the DVD release when it first came out, because this is actually part of the same German documentary series, but I'm really pleased to see that that's included here and does include a lot of information. In terms of the old archival stuff from previous releases, there still remains an 8-minute interview with Christopher Lambert in French with English subtitles, where he very much talks about the character and the development of the character. So they've included that here, as they have the theatrical trailer. In terms of newer special features that were released with the 2016 Blu-ray release, you get a 22-minute interview with Russell Mulcahy, the director, where he talks about his career, he talks about his interest in film from when he was a teenager, how he got involved in making music videos for some of the top pop artists of the 1980s, and getting his first independent film Razorback, which he made in Australia. Also goes into detail about how that indeed led to a video for Duran Duran for the Wild Boys, and how that directly led to him getting selected for Highlander. He talks about the casting process that was involved, the selection of crew, which he had to select with UK crew for. Talks about the legacy as well of Highlander. So this is an interesting new addition. You also get a 2016 20-minute interview with Christopher Lambert. Again, he talks very much about how he came to the role and how it has affected his career moving forwards, and speaks with a lot of love for Highlander. Of course, in all these interviews they talk about Queen's contribution to the soundtrack and working with Queen to help produce this. So there's some interesting stories there as well. And finally, while they were doing the HD remaster of this, they found some deleted material, which they're calling on here deleted scenes. It's not really deleted scenes, it's about 5 scenes covering 6 minutes of extended scenes and alternate coverage from scenes in there, but it's nice that they've included it. Unfortunately, there was no audio. They were unable to find the audio with this, so they've put this some of Michael Kamen's score. Till he rounds out the Blu-ray 30th anniversary edition of Highlander. As I said, I'm looking forward to this getting released on 4K at some point, and I'm hoping when they do, they either come up with some new special features to add to that, or they add some of the additional commentaries and bits and pieces that we didn't get on this. But overall, it's a pretty decent package. It is fair to point out that this is a Region B locked Blu-ray, which I've put a link to down below. I'm also going to include a link for the Region A version of this as well, but so far I've not been able to find a Region C version out there. So again, please comment below if you know of that. And that brings me to the end of another home media minefield. If you found this information interesting, please do like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss anything moving forward. I'm putting out a physical media release episode every week. If there's anything in particular that you'd like me to cover, please again comment, put it in down below, and I will add it to the schedule. If you want to see the live stream discussion tomorrow that I'm involved in, I'll put a link down below. The Wayback Machine stream, so please check that out also. And on that, I want to thank you for your time today. Please do spread the word, and remember, there can be only one.